You can hurt and harm and causes terrible suffering and cruelty. And be one with God. No animal products. Live harmlessly. Okay, that's the Bible passage, the hymn, the word practice, and the jokes. And this is what? December 6th. The day before Pearl Harbor. Good morning, folks. Second week of December. December 7th, Monday. Terrible. Terrible. "80 years ago. But thank you. Glendora, you complain about your sweet buddies who do so much for you and who sacrifice so much for you that they don't put this here and they don't understand there's a place for everything and everything is in its place. They don't understand neat, tidy, trim. But you're worse than all of them. You left the JVC camera door open all last night. From 5:30 to 8:30 this morning. Shame on you. The little LED door. I think one of the best parts of the day for Glennie is listening to Wayne Collins read to Glennie the essays We Knew Mary Baker Eddy. They are all so good. The one now by Mrs. Bartlett, it's so good, but then all the other ones are too. But they constantly, all of them, We Knew Mary Baker Eddy. They constantly mention the spiritual radiance that came from her face. Do you know what it is to have the Christian glow? What? Do you know what it is to have the Christian glow? And then they would mention the deep, deep, deep contact of her eyes that went straight through you and way, 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 way beyond that. To the center of the universe or what? But they would mention that. Now, I believe that. I believe that she had that. It is not deification. Let me tell you. You can have the same thing. What, Glendora? Yes, you can have the same thing. All you have to do is what she did. Go alone with God. The soul that is inside of you and everybody else in this continuous. Remember we kept telling you to have a sanctuary? Go to that sanctuary and just think about that soul. It will say things to you and articulate things to you, and it will make you glow. And if you do it as well as Mary Baker Eddy did it, then you will have that radiant glow that they spoke about in the '80s. The 1800s, 1880s. Roundabout, she was born in 1880 and she died around about 1909. 89 years old. You can have that. You can have that great, great, great supernatural wealth, abundance. You can have that radiance. Do you want it? Give up self, give up trivia, give up second level, love full-time, love full-time, love 100%. Love everybody, love the whole world, love everybody. You can have it. Now, do you think that that was the same with Jesus Christ? I and my Father are one. The meditation. The spending time with God. Do you think that was so with Buddha? Do you think that was so with Muhammad?
Tap to dismiss assistant.
Thank you, Google. I asked Google last night, I said, Google, please tell me a joke. And she said, oh, wait just a minute, please. Oh yeah, why was the scarecrow respected by everybody? He was outstanding in his field. Good for you, Google. Good for you. That is a funny joke. There's something else I'd like to tell you. In yesterday's reading about Mary Baker Eddy, and this is around about the year 1889, she had a school which she had chartered in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She had a school of where she taught people her meditation and how to heal with health. And the school was very successful. It had 4,000 students over since she started it during the 1880s. And it was very, very successful, most successful it had ever been. And around about 1889, she decided to close it. Where was it? It was in Boston. I think it was on I think it was on Columbus Avenue. No. And she decided to close it. And it was prosperous. And there were people lined up waiting to get into it. Why would she close it? Well, 3 men thought that Mary Baker Eddy had lost her marbles, that she was no longer capable of running the Christian Science empire. By this time, Mary Baker Eddy had gone to New Hampshire, up around Concord, where she was from, and she hadn't moved into her great big Victorian house with the turret. She was still sort of downtown Concord, I think, and these 3 men went to see her.
Camera. Productivity. Messages. Assistant.
No,
Tools.
Google.
Google. My account downloader. Google's.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it, though. And she said, Mary Baker Eddy said, well, I'm busy now, but tell them I'll see them in a while. And they waited. And she came out, and of course, like all of the rest of them, they were struck by that radiance and that oneness with God and that beauty and that harmony that you can have when you're one with God. And by that look in the deep, deep, deep look coming out of the eyes. And she explained why she was shutting down the school. And then she said to the first man, no, what did you come to tell me? And he said, oh, well, nothing really. And she said to the second man, and what did you come to tell me? And he says, no, it wasn't anything really important. And she said to the third man, what did you come to tell me? And he answered saying that it wasn't at all important. And these three men, as they told about it afterwards, they said all three of them just wished that the floor had opened up and they had disappeared into it. That was pretty funny. And another one that I enjoyed was a doctor in New Hampshire had a patient and he could not help her. It was a young woman and he just could not help her. He had tried everything. So he sent her to Boston to Christian Science. And the healing began, and the healing was very fast. And the young lady went back to 100% health. And she went back home, and all the people who knew her back home were fascinated and thrilled that this could happen. And so they wrote to Boston and asked if the woman would come up there and help them and heal them and teach them how to do it. And Mary Baker Eddy said, okay, you can go up for a week. Well, our friend who tells all this story, Mrs. Bartlett, did go up, and she asked the people to rent a hall, just a room. And they rented a whole church. They wanted a whole church. And Mrs. Bartlett was appalled and scared, and she never had done the whole talk to a whole hall before. And then she remembered where God was and where she was, and of course she could do it. And it went off beautifully. And so many people were healed. And a man, his wife who had been healed, a minister was irate. And all this Christian, there was a terrible opposition to it. And so this minister, who was particularly irate and particularly vocal about it, was denouncing Christian Scientists. And he said it's the work of the devil. And her husband said, well, in that case, we need more devils and fewer ministers. Was there anything else to tell you about that yesterday? And I think this was around the time that Mary Baker Eddy started the Christian Science Journal. Had she already started the Sentinel? She already had the Mother Church in Boston. They had the Friday night meetings and the Sunday morning meetings. And I told you before how she was so let down by some of her students that they didn't seem to get the drift, and they would preach the sermons on Sunday morning, and the sermons would really be about them, instead of about the line, so that she decided no more sermons, that all of the services are going to be completely just reading the Bible and reading Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. And that is the way it is today, and it is very effective religion. That's a very good place to start if you want to be one with God. Is that enough? Yes. There were other things to tell today, December 7th. My philanthropic friend, Gloria, said, you're going to have a big bill from Albany Med. She says, you've got to go to Medicare, and I haven't had Medicare, except, you know, the part you have to have Part A for hospitals. So, she's going to find out what day this week or next after that she can take off from work and take me to Troy and take me to and have me sign up for Medicare. Don't you have any health insurance, Glendora? No, none. This great body was always able to take care of itself. And it really still is, except for a couple of things. No, always trusted in this great body. So there's a sweet thing to think about. Let's add up the Albany Med experience. So we went there a week ago, yesterday, last Sunday in November. We were there from noon to midnight. A CAT scan, 2 of those, what do you call those things? And 10 or 12 nurses and other hospital personnel, 4 doctors. We went there because Glendora had a terrible pain in the abdomen. Only when she moves. It wasn't constant pain. And she had the pain in the hospital, and she went there to eliminate the pain, and all these other things happened that I just told you about. Glendora goes back home. The pain is still there when she moves. The doctor says, you're going to get your pain relief. The doctor says, Motrin and Tylenol. Couldn't I have gone to Family Dollar and got Motrin and Tylenol Sunday morning? I haven't had the pain much since. Does that add up? Is there something wrong there? What do you think, folks? I think it's time for jokes. The man wrote in the blackboard, well, let's start it out differently. The doctor wrote on the blackboard, I prescribe for all. The lawyer wrote on the blackboard, I plead for all. The minister wrote on the blackboard, I pray for all. And the ordinary person come along and wrote on the blackboard, I pay for all. A man jumped out of an airplane, a parachute wouldn't open, and as he's plummeting toward the earth, he sees a man coming up from the earth. And he calls over to him, he says, hey, do you know anything about parachutes? And the other man says, no, do you know anything about gas stoves? The lawyer says, I want a new trial on the basis of new evidence. The judge says, what's the new evidence? And the lawyer says, I just found out my client has another $10,000. The doctor says to his patients, I have good news and bad news. No, I have good news, none, and I have bad news and very bad news. Ooh, what is the bad news? You have 2 days to live. What's the very bad news? I forgot to tell you yesterday. Harry says, I don't want to go to school today. The teachers don't like me. The kids don't like me. Even the custodians have it in for me. And his mother says, well, you're going to school today. You have much to offer. You have much to learn. And besides, you're 45 years old and the principal. I didn't tell you that my friend in Philadelphia, who sponsors the Chat with Glendora on PhillyCam, that he and his wife noticed as they watched the program on TV, the medical alert, and my friend said, if you hadn't had one of those, I would have bought you one. The generosity of these people. And that's the friend who, with my other friend, Honshina, sent us the help of the Reverend Gary on Thursdays and Fridays. And we had Robert Levitt in Ridgefield, Connecticut, who called us and made us feel that a chat with Glendora was helping him. And that is its mission. He wants people to know that when all is said and done, the only thing that really mattered is how did you treat others. Well, let's go through the block. So you have bad thought, and you constantly think about yourself and how to aggrandize yourself and things that you can do to make people, to show off and make people like you. And you talk about yourself, and maybe you have pain, maybe you have poverty, maybe you have unhappiness or loneliness. What's the solution? Stop selfishness. Stop ego. Stop me first. You take all of that energy and all of that time and all of that life, and you put it toward loving others. You stop loving yourself. Stop it completely and love others. Then you begin to feel good. And the wrong thought that you had disappears. The pain that you had disappears. You're giving your life to others. And you find out something wonderful. Love. You find out what love is. All of a sudden it comes to you. God is love. All of a sudden you have found God. All this time, all these years, you couldn't touch God. You couldn't know God. You couldn't intercept God. You couldn't take it all in. You had no idea what it was. It was so big and great. And now all of a sudden you know exactly what God is. God is love. Because you know everything there is to know about love. Isn't that sweet? What's the third block you run into? The third block of presence of this. Presents, presence of God. The third one is you don't think about anything bad anymore. You just don't think about anything bad. You don't think about anything bad. You just think about what is good. Your thinking is is not negative. It's not second level. It's not second level. It's not trivial. It's not ugly. It's good. It's happy. That's your thinking. And that's your third one. Then comes another great big box of presents. What's that? You find out that God is one. You find out that God is only. You find out that God is all. That's all there is God. It's only. And you find out that you're one with God. And we use the metaphor of the human body with trillions of cells. You're a cell and Glennie's a cell. We're in there side by side. Is there any way we could ever not be one with our body? How can you not be one with your body? That's the life that's flowing through you. That's the spirit. And you find out that God is one, God is only. It's spirit, it's love, it's one. It's all. Is that enough? Well, I would think so, but there's something else. In all this fun, in box 5, there's something else for you. God is good. And since God is the only creator, and since nothing is created unless it's created by God, everything is good. Everything is good. And if you go deeply into it and often enough into it, you would have that great spiritual radiance in your face and in your eyes. And you would give it to the world. Is there anything else? Yep. Biggin. You have to stop doing the mean things that you're doing to animals. The terrible, horrible things that you are doing to animals. And you are doing it. Oh, we say, I didn't do it. Well, you paid for it. Yep. You got to stop that. I would just like to repeat, with your permission, the great statement by the emergency room doctor, Dr. Frody, when I said, look, here I am, 92 and a half years old, no doctors, no medicine. I've lost my title. I've lost the record. 92 and a half years old, no doctors, no medicine. And what did he say? He said, it's still a good record. No, he said, it's still a great record. Good for you, doctor.